Well, for a lot of times in Congress, I would ask the other members, Article 1, Section 8 is pretty important. The founders thought they wanted to make it clear on what authority they were given to the federal government. So Article 1, Section 8 does that. And then they said, if we didn't mention it, you don't have it. The powers we didn't mention, the 10th Amendment says everything goes back to the states and to the people. And that's not complicated at all. And just think of all these agencies and what they've been doing and what's been exposed with this revelation. I mean, it's been so bad for so long that probably, I think 80% of what the federal government does is technically probably unconstitutional. So a little bit helps, and I think that we have a long way to go to get the American people to understand that major changes have to occur. I'm delighted with the discussion, say, on education. They're talking about not just, I don't like it when they tinker around the edges and cut 20% and say, see, we're moving along. But the principle still remains there. Right now we hear talk about how did the federal government ever get control of our educational system? And I consider that so important because I think that's where so many people are misled in history and economics and the work. So I think there's some good things happening, but I also think there's some bad things that could happen if we don't get this thing straightened out. Well, I think in a way the market has benefited us when we were blessed with a very, very wealthy country, resources and all, and we had a lot of license because we ended up after World War II with the legal aspect of counterfeiting money for the world, and the temptation was there, and we in this country did it. So, people have this idea that we're powerful now, we should police the world, and so we became the policemen of the world, and people did it with a good feeling. We're tough and we run things and we're wealthy, and we still are probably the wealthiest country in the world. But people are realizing it's unfortunately all based on debt, and people are starting to wake up to realize that debt can't go on forever. So it was the good part of freedom that produced a lot. The production that occurred in this artificial economy that was fed with artificial money, I think it was hiding the problem. If we'd have had to pay for everything that we've used, if we'd have had to pay for, say, all the wars we've been in, there'd have been a lot less wars. So the wealth that we had and the ability to have a military and the ability to have the reserve currency in the world was a big temptation for the politicians, and the people liked it too. The more you promise, the more we'll vote for you. And both parties have been, very, very good at spending money and offering more stuff to the people. They're still trying to do it, but right now they're running out of steam, and that's why I think this year is going to be different, and is already different than ever before, because we're getting something done that I've been arguing forever, especially with the Fed. Audit. Let's find out what they're doing. It's a shame that it's gotten this far. That's the biggest, the most important thing we can do is to continue with these audits that Leon and Trump have been doing. This is good. Well, I've talked about that for a long time, because when a country debases its currency, then they debase the currency by being dishonest. And we've been dishonest probably immediately after the Fed was created, because back then there was a ratio of $20 to 1 ounce of gold. And yet we were still very wealthy after World War II, even wealthier. And so nobody really cared as long as people trusted it, the dollar. So the spending was endless. But before 1971, I remember becoming interested in all that was going on. And there were people back then, especially the free market economists, the Austrian economists, were predicting that You can't do this. It's going to break down. And so on August 15th, 1971, that was a real revelation to me. It was a confirmation that the things that I had been reading came true. And it was a bankruptcy. And they, in 1933, they took away the right to own gold. So it is. And so I had bills in to audit not audit the Fed, but audit the gold holdings too. And the idea has come up. But back at the end of the 70s, I introduced a resolution along with Senator Helms to study the monetary system, the world monetary system. And during that commission that was established, we had one vote. There were 17 members of the commission, and I brought up the subject of auditing gold because if you're going to start over again, you ought to know what you have, what are your real assets. And so I did get a vote on the committee about what we should do, and I didn't do so well. The vote was 15-2 against the auditing. It just for looking at us, just tell us we have the gold or not. But that's what happens when they destroy a currency. A trust is only restored when you have the return of honest money. Well, I think some of the things that we could do is certainly remove, since they're not going to voluntarily say the Fed can't buy Treasury bill. But if the country decided that it would be better to spend less money and get rid of U.S. AIDs and all the rest of them, you could do that. If you wanted one big thing to restore confidence in the system, you'd get major overhaul of our foreign policy and bring our troops home. And that way you would say, well, you're going to cut back. And I said, yeah, but I went head first after child health care. I would go after the military-industrial complex because it's so evil. It kills people, and it's ongoing. If you look at all the people who died since World War II, you'll find out that it was our money that people would realize that it was our money, and our efforts, our policy. The American people haven't said anything. And that's what I've tried to do is get people. But I think you could cut there and say, I'm not going to cut next month, food stamps for poor people. But let's cut the food stamps for rich people, like the military-industrial complex or the pharmaceutical index and all the big companies. When I went to Congress, I thought welfare was something that very poor people got, and they got food stamps. But the big deal is the big corporation. So we don't have free markets. What we have, and we don't have true fascism, but we're moving in that direction. But we have a system of corporatism, and that is the business of people work very closely, and they're part of the whole system. And I think the more you'll read about what Biden was doing, they were deeply involved with corporations. And their goal is to pay off their friends and for them to get very rich. And but the system rules finally because they always overstep themselves. Foreign policy, I think we've overstepped ourselves.